Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Harvey Carroll, and I'm going to discuss a land development project in Dnipropetrovsk. Very quickly, I'll just go over some land development issues, like an agenda type course masterclass that I would like to give, and some of the things that will be important. Some of them I will mark out. Okay, here we go. Mixed-use development. I don't want to make this an all-day course, but we could start early and go through maybe a half a day. Legal strategies and structuring considerations, application to the creation of mixed-use communities. All right, keep in mind this is not only mixed use, but it's multi-use and industrial, which will ultimately have to be part of a master plan, but it will have to be cut into sections, appropriate sections. Okay? Now, we could combine all three of those together and put industrial, mixed use, multi-use, and everything here, but separate those into proper categories, give 3 or 4 master classes, or try to do one overall and then subsection it from the master plan. Okay, identifying the development goals, which we could do as a master plan, structuring options, development, construction and easements, operations and management, governance, and project control. Now, all of this goes hand in hand with a step-by-step process. The second, the importance of the master plan process on mixed-use developments or industrials, the relationship between plan unit development and mixed-use zoning, regulations, and planning process. Case studies, master planning, transit-oriented mixed-use development. Now, transit at this time, we only have a stop on one side, and there's an intersection there. There's a possible planned bridge, but I don't know how far that's along, and we'll have to discuss that more with the city. Formed based zoning and mixed-use development. Take a break, which, again, this is not cut in stone. Drafting documents for master plan community association governance. I have a ton of documents, and I have a lawyer that can translate those documents and then work with the teams in Dnipro to create an overview of the documents, practicing drafting tips, selecting, creating appropriate governance structure. All of that will have to be, of course, in Ukrainian law, but the structures I have are proven land development documentation. Okay, alternate financing sources, special tax districts, tax increment financing, that sort of thing, industrial revenue bonds, blah, blah, blah. Lots of creative financing that will be involved in the project. Okay, lunch, we'll skip that for now. Allocation of cost, identifying cost components of project expenses. Now, there will be multi-faceted types of financing structures, from infrastructure to actual buildings to operational costs. I mean, it's just phenomenal how much project management expenses will be involved in it. So to mitigate those, we have to find creative ways to create the money, as well as organized ways to creatively finance each individual project. Determine appropriate allocations of project expenses, lease and other project documentation issues. Development of mixed-use projects from entitlements to groundbreaking, pre-contract and post-contract considerations, practice considerations for developers and lenders, or practical considerations. I have a checklist, as I mentioned before, and a checklist will have to be adopted and create a hybrid between what I used in America and what actually happens to get everything done legally within Ukraine, and the process of getting all the approvals and stuff through the city. So I want to create a hybrid checklist that meets both criterias. So everything is legal, transparent, etc. And of course, it becomes very practical once you have a structure in place. Construction type considerations for mixed use projects. Okay, mixed use versus multi-use versus industrials, I mentioned before. Establishing development thresholds, developing with building codes, and not only do we want to use Ukrainian building codes, but we want to up that to European and American building standards. Mixed use projects in down market, dealing with fractured residential condominium regimes. It's basically just flats. Successor declared issues. I'll not get into that now. Compliance with state, local conversion requirements. Now, we will have to do some conversions in the industrial area and maybe in other areas of the old industrial buildings and convert those into some useful structures. Defending builder contracts from purchase termination claims. Obviously, we want to do everything legal and transparent, make sure there's no issues. So that's extremely important. And then Federal Interstate Land Sales, Full Disclosure Act considerations. Well, this is really not federal, but it is government land, so we will have to take in all those considerations and, of course, work with local and state governments. Compliance with secondary mortgage agency requirements. Obviously, we want to ensure that the buyers get a good product, as well as the banks are secured and the ability to for the banks to sell those into the secondary mortgage markets. So basically, that's some of the issues that will need to be addressed in forums in Dnipropetrovsk. Thank you, and I look forward to working with you all.